So Tony Wales has already returned to Australia. He's our 8th board member. This is the chance that the participants in this conference and this board get to interact in a somewhat formal way, but to build on the energy and excitement of this conference. You heard Mark Butler, our strategic planning consultant, yesterday talk about the importance of the decisions that can be made at the board level, but there are decisions made throughout every level of the organization, and there needs to be communication between every level of the organization. So I think we could just, if we've got someone running a microphone through the audience, this would be a time to begin some dialogue about the present and future of smart recovery. A microphone is coming your way. And we need that mic live.
You got it. Go for it.
Strategic planning discussion, and you mentioned something that came out of it was forming an international board. What else can you share about that discussion that you will see us taking action perhaps in the next year or two here?
The answer to that question has been delegated to me. The exact way forward on that 2, possibly longer year project is not entirely clear. What has become clear is that we have a number of countries that are already operating smart recovery in ways that are not quite the same as the United States, because the environments in which those meetings occur are different. Some countries have national health services. In some countries, harm reduction is the accepted orientation of national policy around substance problems, and smart recovery needs to adapt to that. So within the broad rubric of, is it self-empowering, that is, does it emphasize the power of choice? Does it have a scientific basis? Does it work in a mutual help setting? Within those broad principles, which may further be elaborated and understood, how do we move forward country by country? And even within countries, certainly the United States is a large country, there may be some regional differences. Am I answering your question?
That was very good relative to that point of the strategic plan. That was very good relative to that point of the strategic planning. I was wondering if there were other strategic planning points that were addressed that you can share with us.
One of the major issues, or combination of issues that we're going to have to deal with, and we've discussed at length, is the relative weight of time, energy, money that we put into trying to expand face-to-face meetings versus the online activities. This is certainly something concerns me. The wave of the future is clearly on the web. I mean, that's the way things are trending. That's the way the younger generation is empowered and engaged. And we're, I suppose, gonna live by smartphone alone in a very few years. So this is a big strategic determination, because we've got, like most nonprofits, limited resources. The time of our volunteers is precious, and the great majority of them are probably too dedicated already in terms of their time and their energies, and we have a limited pot of money, and so forth and so on. So this is a major area where just as there's a balance or a tension between international engagement and national engagement. So those are the kind of the tensions that the board has to deal with, and hopefully we'll do it effectively in the future.
Can I say, is this one on? One of the things we also talked about that went along with that, and what Joe was just saying, and this was brought up last night at our dinner, the Italian dinner, because since I was on the board, we brought up this question. That is, along those lines, we will also be looking at the IT infrastructure. You know, as right now it resides country by country, and so if we're moving to an international board, part of that would be to look at, you know, what can be moved to an international IT structure I mean, right now, each country is like separate entities, so the domains really need to be housed within those entities. But if we move to an international, can we move our IT infrastructure internationally, to have a lot more ease of access for all the other countries and to have some like similarities in structure throughout the world, and what really goes into that. But, like, as they said, it's a long process, and, we have to bring on the right people because, with the right skill set, that really have an international experience or an international IT presence because, you're running up against so many international and, laws for each country. But that is something that would be worked into the strategy.
Two other issues that came out of the board meeting. One is a pilot project to investigate how well a highly structured meeting that would require less skill by the facilitator. Some of us were talking about this at breakfast. A meeting that almost runs itself because it's so structured. And we have some evidence to think that that works when the participants know Smart Recovery. We also want to find out, does it work when people are brand new to Smart Recovery? We're going to develop some ways to test that. And we're going to explore the option of doing in the US what's already done in the UK, which is a partnership or affiliate agreement with treatment centers. In exchange for being able to say that they're a Smart Recovery affiliate, will they agree to provide certain kinds of tracks and assurances about how people in that track will be dealt with? For the treatment center, it's potentially a marketing advantage, and for us, it's potentially a large source of revenue, and with revenue, all kinds of things become possible.
Hey there. I'm glad to hear that the digital space came up sort of in that first discussion there, because that's what I wanted to bring up. So I guess my question should be more specifically, what kind of feedback you all have gotten about the digital space, the website, the online meetings, things like that. And was Mr. Butler's feedback yesterday new, or was it something that you've been hearing a lot? And really, what are the specific next steps that you all want to take when it comes to enhancing the digital experience in SMART?
Looks like I'll take that one too. The feedback about our online presence has been has filled a wide range. Certainly, the interactions that are possible on the website, through the message board, and in the online meetings have been highly praised by many people. We have certainly heard many comments about frustration, about the structure of the website, about the ease of logging in, a number of specific issues. We'd like to make it easier to navigate, and more, it ought to offer a wider range of services. I suspect the big issues that we're going to be dealing with initially will be funding, and how are we going to fund the redevelopment, and how are we going to find the proper consultants, because it requires a level of technical expertise that I think we're not even sure what we're looking for just yet. We're going to focus on designing the outcome we want. And if you are someone who would like to contribute to that process, we'd be happy to hear from you.
One other thing that Mark Butler said was the recognition that the founders are gradually passing from the scene. Some are just passing because they voluntarily are moving on with their lives in a different direction, and some involuntarily moved on. So as we were talking about this on the board, I was thinking about it and realized that 4 of the original founding members are now dead, and 1 is dying. Wow. And these are people who contributed greatly, who had a lot of foresight, dynamism, and so forth, and they're gone now. I'm 78. I think I'm the senior. Am I? Yeah, I'm the senior. Yep. And I got a few marbles left, but I know I'm missing a few too. So, so anyway, this is something we're going to have to grapple with. We have to fill in. We have to fill in the vacancies, so to speak, and we certainly have to enlarge our boards. We need more skill sets and so forth. So keep this in mind. And we don't necessarily require people who've been devoted And pretty much this is how we've vetted people in the past. This, you know, how hard has someone worked? How sincere have they been about smart recovery? And, you know, how many extra hours have they put in, and how reliable have they been, and so forth and so on. And these are certainly very valid and useful criteria, but in future, to really move forward, we have to pull people out of the other professions, other endeavors, other skill sets, and bring them to the board. So keep this in mind, because, you know, you're our tentacles out there, and people that you meet socially, people who you meet in business, especially maybe people in business who are approaching retirement and who have a great number of skills and very charitable instincts. Maybe you've had some family contact with the issue of addiction and so forth, and you know, talk to them, see whether they might be interested in this, get a background, let us know about it, because we are certainly seeking people with a variety of skill sets now. We have to, I think the phrase is in the community, professionalize the board, and you can be of great help in helping us with this.
I just had
any lords and ladies, anyone with a trust fund or very deep pockets,
Yeah, that's the other.
you know, that's very welcome. A lot of boards, people actually buy their seat on the board by coming with a great bequest. And we certainly haven't had that in the past, but we wouldn't turn someone like that away.
I hope this is now a prestigious position for somebody to occupy, and to be able to say that they sit on the board of Smart Recovery, and a very well-known and well-accepted international organization.
I'll just ask very quickly, in serving our community so well with technology, one of the things that attracted me to SMART, have we given much thought to having just an app?
I can take that. Because in the meeting yesterday, I was going to actually say that is I was pushing for the apps. We do have an app, basically, and we can provide anyone with the instructions. It's not our own proprietary app, but we use, it's called Flash Chat, that's the software behind the scenes that's running our rooms. And we are looking at another solution, correct, Sherry? So, I mean, we're constantly evaluating, to answer your question, we're constantly evaluating and looking at alternatives with our website, trying to...
Such a natural portal.
Right. So that was brought up in our session, and I'm really big. I mean, that's where the future is mobile. You know, is everybody using their phone? I mean, computers are really going away, and so yeah. So I mean, I know Michael's has, as part of his class, has developed you know, an app to start with. But that is something that, you know, we put as part of the strategy that would be part of this IT structure. So again, I mean, we're always looking for skill sets. So, you know, more and more people, either whether you want to help fund it or you have that skill set, you know, to help develop, you know, a smart app. We do have an app, though, available. It's the Flash Chat. So if you go to, you know, the iTunes or Google Play Store, you're not going to find a Smart Recovery app yet. However, the one that we have, and we can give you the instructions, once you have registered on our website and you have a logon ID, then you download the Flash Chat app, and you just enter the ID and your password and the room number, which we have, which is for Smart, and you're on, and then you never have to do it again. So I just want to point that out, that so from my phone right now, I can just push that button, and immediately I can jump into the chat room or into one of the meetings. And I think it really hasn't really been, the word hasn't spread well enough, because I had always said when I first came to Smart that, you know, I really could see the tool of, you know, we all know that a lot of times, you know, when those voices in the head are saying, you know, let's go use, you know, a lot of times that's the time you're by yourself, it's late at night, et cetera, and maybe you don't have anyone to contact, you know, and the tools that you're using maybe aren't working. And I always thought, like, wow, wouldn't it be great to have an app on your phone that you can just push and immediately jump into the, wherever you're at, even if you're outside on the street getting ready to hook up with a drug dealer, you know, that you could jump into the chat room. And we have that functionality right now, so that would be one thing that would be nice if we could help get the word out.
I'm sorry, I
No,
didn't
go
mean
ahead.
to interrupt you, but I'm suggesting that we have one that's so easy. The push of a button, the power of that seems to go along with the philosophy of SMART and how we move forward. I know what you're talking about with the one, but you have to put a bunch of stuff in, just like the same problem that people seem to have with the website. You know, how do we make ourselves accessible? An app is not, to my knowledge, and I'm not very technical, an app is not that expensive to launch on just an open one. That all you have to put in is your iTunes account.
Right. I mean, well, what I meant is, you know, once you just enter that simple, your ID, your password, and the number of the room, you never have to do it again.
I'm talking about a person that maybe has never even heard of SMART.
Sure.
And they're playing with their phone.
Right.
And they're sitting in a bar.
Yeah, so I mean, well, that's what we're saying. That's part of the long-term strategy is to keep developing more apps, you know, that are very easy. And yes, that's the purpose of apps, is that it's easy and simple. Yeah. So, you know, that's our goal. But our goal is also to continually streamline the website to make it as simple and easy as possible. So.
Great.
The app that I'm most interested in having, or part of an app, is a feedback form about meetings. And I suspect that we would number meetings so that you could pull up your app, type in the meeting number, and any time in the week following it, fill out a quick form that would allow us to give feedback to the facilitators, and I suspect also help us identify meeting facilitation styles. There are some broad categories of people. Some of us are very extroverted. Joe runs a very different kind of meeting than I would run. Some people would prefer his, some people would prefer mine, and there are other styles as well. We could start to identify those. We might even tag them with some labels. That we have this kind of meeting with this facilitator. This already happens informally. You know which meeting leaders you prefer. We might become a little more systematic about it and actually have some data. Such an app would also allow us to collect all kinds of data. If we're going to be a scientifically informed organization, we should be collecting data about ourselves and publishing it. So the sky's the limit on those kinds of things.
Right, and
so
you know,
it's in the works.
And also we could create, I mean, long term, you know, could create apps for the facilitators so that any tools that they need is right on their phone. And so, you know, whatever topic comes up in a meeting, they can just push that and boom, there it comes up at their fingertips. So, you know, there's a lot of ways and technology that we can use to help. But of course, as we always say, first comes funding and the skills and the time that we need. So again, anyone, feel free to let us know.
Just one additional thing. As you know, our great friend Reed Hester has a smartphone app. He doesn't have one.
It's not a phone app. You have to be at a computer.
I see. Okay,
Computer-based
I'm corrected.
app.
Anyway, there is a interactive app that he has that I think costs some money to subscribe to, but fulfills that function. And hopefully, my guess is he'll get a grant pretty soon and put it on the smartphone. Not exactly smart recovery, but as you know, he's deeply involved and enmeshed his website in the smart recovery program.
Okay, so thank you so much for giving us this opportunity. One of the things I thought was missing from the conference so far was a little bit of discussion and give and take and things like that. I wanted to quickly go back to something that Joe had mentioned as a tension, the online versus face-to-face. I've been fairly vocal in over the years in my concern that face-to-face facilitators and face-to-face meetings don't get the same amount of attention / funding / support. Personally, I feel very much left on my own in Phoenix, and I think that we do a pretty darn good job in Phoenix, but there is a tension. There has been. This is the first time I've heard anyone other than me articulate it. And so it's very gratifying to hear that, but it's also a little disconcerting because over the years, one of the things that I've wondered is when exactly Smart Recovery is going to decide that it's no longer financially feasible to maintain face-to-face meetings and is going to move to a strictly online delivery method. And can you guys just elaborate on that a little bit and put me at ease that what we're doing, particularly when we serve, I personally serve an an underserved population, I guess is the best way to put it. They're generally not wealthy or affluent. They often don't have access even to smartphones. The apps that we're talking about are great. Reed Hester's program is fabulous, only it costs money and you have to have a computer. And so the face-to-face meetings that are free, it's a critical component, I think, of what we do.
Yeah, and if it's okay, and then if you want to pass, I have a mic. You'll learn if I have a mic, you're in trouble. So,
Likewise.
I can say I'm a regional coordinator for Illinois, and I chair the regional coordinators. And I think we mentioned it yesterday, but that's it's fairly newer. We've had regional coordinators we've been around for about 3 years, and we're constantly trying to expand. Our ultimate goal is to have a regional coordinator for at least every state, and like already California, we have 3. Because of the size. And so first of all, we've constantly been working to help give the facilitators in the field, since you're talking about face-to-face, as much support as we can, and we're constantly always trying to figure out more ways. And so by having regional coordinators, the goal of a regional coordinator is basically to help spread the word of SMART, but to be the support for the facilitators, both the new and current. And so please utilize your regional coordinator, because basically they're like a liaison between the board, and Elaine is our representative from the board officially, even though besides myself, that sits in on these meetings. And so those meetings, the regional coordinators, we're always trying to figure out, what needs to be done. We bring topics and discuss and and so from that, we've implemented a lot of new things. So first of all, just by having the regional coordinators is one of those areas. Another area that came out of that in a study that was done by a student that just happened to come along and wanted to help out, that we launched the mentor program. And so, and that's been a project of mine and a few others, and I know some mentors are here today. And so that's a new program that we just started about 2 months ago, and that is part of the regional coordinator's job is to act as a mentor to any new facilitator. But we don't have regional coordinators everywhere, and some regional coordinators are already swamped. So we created a team of mentors. I'm always looking for mentors, and a mentor is someone that has been a facilitator at least for a year. And this is also really good for any facilitator that may have stepped back from facilitating a current meeting, but they have all this experience and they still want to be involved. And so the mentors then are part of a new team, and basically what happens is now anyone that goes through training as part of starting a new meeting, they have ask them if they would like a mentor assigned to them, and then if it is a regional coordinator in their area, that is the mentor, or if they don't want to be, we can assign another mentor, and then anyone else anywhere else will be assigned a mentor, and then the mentor's responsibility is to contact them the first 30, 60, and 90 days, just to be, support. They've been through it, they know what it's like to start a meeting, they know it can be challenging in the first few months when 1 or 2 people show up or they may not come back. So they're kind of there to be their cheerleader, and to be support. So, that's just, some of the few things that we've been doing to help support, because we don't want to take away the face-to-face meetings. They're very valuable, and your points about that are...
Yeah. So, look, this is let me give you some data that throws some light on this. Our training program is now training 150 facilitators every month.
Wow.
This is incredible to me, just incredible. And Sherry's kind enough to send to the board every month a list of everybody who's doing this and where they're located. And then there's a little box that gives them an option to say, well, here's why I'm taking the training. So by now, about a third are professionals. And they generally saying, well, I want to start a SMART meeting in my clinic or in my agency or something. And many of these people have been through addictions themselves, as many professionals in the addiction area. And then about a third of people, sort of, I would say, nondescript kind of description. And then about a third say, SMART recovery has changed my life, or SMART recovery has saved my life, or something like that. And some of the people go on and on. It's very, very powerful. So, I get a little fatigued now and then with getting a meeting covered in Norwood or getting this covered in Attleboro and this and that, and so forth and so on. But this gives me a nice boost at the end of every month because we are literally saving lives. And we're training a huge number of facilitators. Now, we know not all of them go on to start meetings, but many of them are helpers or fillers in, and that's a very valuable commodity in our network because, you know, facilitators can't be there 52 weeks at a time, and they get sick like anybody else or have family affairs they have to attend and so forth. So that's one side of the equation. As far as I know, we have no intention to drop the support. Matter of fact, we're increasing it and enhancing it. The coordinator network that Patrick is mainly responsible languished for many years, and he's really given it a good goose and seems to be expanding and getting more to do and so forth and so on. On the other hand, we have 120,000 unique visitors per month coming to our website. And about 130,000 registrants. Now, also the technology on the web is changing and expanding. I mean, we're on Flash Chat now, and everybody knows it's it's an awkward medium, maybe. Everybody's bandwidth is gradually increasing, and perhaps in the not too distant future, we will have meetings online that allow people to see each other's faces. And this has greatly enhanced the impact and hopefully the utility and the power, the emotional power that goes with a group that we all know in a face-to-face meeting. It's an incredible. You know, when I got, I've told this many times, when I was in medical practice and didn't know anything about smart recovery, didn't know anything about CBT, supposedly it worked, but I couldn't see how it could. I was not trained that way. My specialties are internal medicine and pain management, and addiction is an avocation of mine. So I figured, well, if you had good insurance and you can afford it, you got private therapy, and if you couldn't and you didn't, you got group therapy, and that was the way it was. Since then, obviously, since about my third meeting, I think I learned that group activities, peer activities, support the most powerful change agent in the universe, outside of an asteroid hitting Earth or something like that. That's pretty powerful. Take a look at that Spinosaurus outside there. You know? Thank God they're not still around. So it's dangerous enough to go swimming in Florida without Spinosauruses around. So the technology is changing, the world is changing, people are changing, and you know we're going to have to change as that comes along. And it may be that technology will gradually overtake, and that not just the people who want to go to a meeting in their pajamas will be comfortable and will feel that same impulse and that same power that, what was that guy's name from Favor? Who was here yesterday? Yeah, that Steve Gumley talked about, that feeling in the room that is just, it's just electrifying when people get it, when the lights start going on in their eyes and they start changing, like Bill Abbott said yesterday, his eyes started bulging, you know, when he heard, wow, you know, this is for me, whatever it was. So we have to, you know, we have to ride with those currents to some degree. But as far as the present and the near future, there's no question that face-to-face meetings, I think that was number one on our list, was more meetings. It seems that the limitation on the number of facilitators that we can develop for online, which appears to me to be much more difficult to run a meeting online than face-to-face, is a severe limitation. And for the near future, unless we can find a way to populate the online facilitators more effectively, it's not going to be a problem that anybody has to worry about. Anybody else?
I mean, just one quick survey. How many online facilitators do we have in the room? And how many face-to-face facilitators do we have in the room? I think that data speaks for itself. There will come a point where we have meetings every hour of 24/7 in multiple languages, and we will at that point max out. but we have a long way to go to max out on face-to-face. So we will become an increasingly diverse organization and support many different components.
Tom, that won't be maxing out, because then we'll have to have women's meeting and crystal meth meeting and overeaters meeting and people of color meeting and LGBT meeting, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
I stand corrected.
I'm in awe of the amount of energy and ideas and everything that's been going on this weekend. I'm an enthusiastic user of the online meeting, and I went to my first face-to-face last night. I had never been to a face-to-face SMART meeting before. The thing that I was quite shocked about was recently to find out how few of the online participants actually financially support the online program. And to me, the issue of how are we going to fund the expansion that we'd all like to see of the online, that's something that I think is a big challenge. And I was just wondering if you guys had any comments on. I'm not sure. I mean, I know the online community. We've had people brainstorming, and we've had all kinds of ideas. I was just kind of wondering, what kinds of things do you see maybe for the future?
Well, we talked a little bit yesterday about, sort of the next step is to get some sort of development director. It's probably not, we're nowhere near having the resources to have that as a full-time position. Ideally, that would be someone pro bono, maybe part-time, maybe someone in our community. But sort of generating more money from our, you could say, client base, or from the people who are utilizing our services, from just passing the hat. That's where we were at 5 or 10 years ago, was trying to shake more money out of the passing the hat, and that just really isn't feasible. Most of the people we serve really don't have that much money to give, and it's not going to happen. So we have to go after really grant money and foundation money, but also being a little smarter about things like in New York City, we started up the ability to have people give charitable contributions at year end, that they could be tax deductible, and also have companies do matching funds for it. And so, a few people who were a little more well-heeled and were able to, could think of SMART as along with their other year-end charities. So you just need a couple of people to give a significant gift at the end of the year, and you don't have to worry about who's giving $1 versus $5. That helped a great deal in transforming the finances of New York City.
People can sign up to do a $5 every month. I mean, even people that are not well-to-do, if you had, even a quarter of the people who are regular participants on the online group, people sign up to give a $5 donation every month. That's a huge amount of money. And
I'm not saying we're not going after that. It's just that's not the main thrust anymore of seeing. And if you ever go to any online meetings or online events, there's sort of that scroll, almost like, every 10 minutes it says, please donate. Yeah, it becomes background. It has to be varied, I think. It has to have different messaging or have a picture in it. Otherwise, you don't see it anymore.
I also want to assure you that online development will not be based only on online fundraising. There are other sources of revenue for that. We already have half a dozen sources of revenue, and we're looking to expand them.
Next question here.
Hi, I'm Nancy Daniels. I was originally scheduled to come to D.C. from Oak Ridge, Tennessee for the Fed Up rally that is at noon today, where we're asking for a federal response to the prescription drug and heroin epidemic. We'd like to invite y'all to come to that. But I quickly saw that I was meant to be here too. I'm the mother of a daughter who's 3 years, 2 days ago in recovery. And for the last 2.5 years, I've been developing a cell phone and tablet app. And I've had you in the app since the beginning under the meetings, both your website and the online. And the reason that I've been here the last 2 days is that I work 10 to 15 hours a day on the app, so I don't have time to do the research I need. And I firmly believe that the way to draw people, too fast? Oh, thank you. Okay, thank you. Is to get people that don't know about you. And most of the people we aimed to begin with to have 100 links to give people the opportunity to know about resources that we didn't have. My daughter was in 90-day residential, 5 months of sober living, IOP, private therapy. During that time, we didn't know about you, we didn't know about SAMHSA, we didn't know anything. And so I thought finding 100 links would be really difficult since we had so little. And my background is I worked for IBM, I have a master's in EDS and mental health special ed, and I'm a good Googler. And it shocks me to know what I didn't know the first 1.5 years of my daughter's treatment. So we were trying to do the 100 links to provide those resources to families. So the app is called You Are Linked to Resources for Families of People with Substance Use Disorder. That's the first big criticism. If you can shorten it, let me know. But we're trying to hit all those bases. We usually just call it You Are Linked or You Are Linked to Resources. What I've done while I sat here is I've checked out the website some because I think we need to add the articles that you have, like the one that's on the website about relapse, so that you have content in the app by your people that people read, and then they say, oh, who are they? And they go to your site to check it out.
So after you talk to Bobby, who's sitting directly behind you, then why don't you come talk to us? Because it sounds like there's a basis for collaboration here.
And I talked to Lee yesterday and showed it to her. But if I can, I have to leave for the Fed Up rally before y'all are over today. But I can leave cards or brochures back there. And I would, if you will send me a URL for any article, I will add it. And we can also add under the advanced search an app within an app where it says links recommended by Smart Recovery. And you can tell me, I'll tag them, the links that you want in. So I'm more than happy to pursue that.
We will certainly do that.
Thank you.
We have about 10 minutes left, and I see a number of hands. Thank you.
I have a quick thing here because I believe that during the board meeting there were a couple of questions that came up that Brett wanted to pose to the audience for input. Do you recall either of does that sound familiar?
Oh, right, yeah.
Because I want to make sure we get input.
Based on the stakeholder survey, one issue that came up was that about board invisibility, and sort of lack of access to the board was something that a lot of people seem to write in about. And I don't know if necessarily the people here today, because this is obviously not 861 people, have a strong feeling about, but I had an idea that what we could possibly do as a board to try to sort of break down a barrier like that is to have sort of like informal meetings on the web, like every month or every quarter, where a few people from the board were available to have this sort of Q&A. And I was wondering if anyone in the audience thought that would be an interesting idea, where people could talk about anything. It could be just basic stuff like, so how do you nominate someone to be on the board? To who is on the board right now and what do you do? To like hot topics, like stuff that's getting a lot of play on SmartCal, and like what's the board going to do about that? Is there going to be a major policy change on like meditation, and are we allowed to do it at meetings? So I was just wondering if people would be interested in showing up at something like that. If it was, and it wouldn't always be the same people. It would, so you'd get like a little variety. There'd maybe be 3 people from the board each time, and it'd be like announced on SmartCal and in News and Views.
So
show of hands, if that'd be something you might show up to. Okay, cool. all right, maybe we'll try it then for like, we'll give it a try for a year and see how it goes. I don't have a second question.
Oh, hi. I'm Angie. I'm local in DC. This is my very first Smart anything. So I want to tell you, coming in and attending your annual meeting, this is really a spectacular introduction for me. So I got the whole snapshot of the history and all of the exciting things that you're doing. But Brett, you just mentioned that New York campaign. I was wondering if anyone's familiar with the federal government's CFC campaign, the annual CFC, which is combined federal campaign where it's for federal employees like myself. We have sort of limited restrictions on charities and donations. So the federal government puts together a huge pamphlet of charities and they distribute it once a year. And all of the employees get to sign up for automatic deductions of what we would like our money to go to. And there's hundreds of thousands of us here, and that's all across the country. That might be another revenue stream.
This is the sort of thing that a development officer, development position would tackle. It's something they would know about accomplishing.
Thank you.
Sure.
Oh, that's good to know.
Hi, I'm Bobby Baggio, and I'd like to ask the board to start with Patrick and just introduce yourselves to us and tell us who you are briefly. And, part of the mission of most boards is to set strategy for the organization. So I'm going to challenge you to tell us 2 strategic initiatives that you'd like to see SMART accomplish, maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, and then 2 challenges that you'd like to see them overcome.
We'll start with Patrick.
I know. I'm like, thanks, Bobby. I appreciate that.
We are in DC, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
And keep in mind that I think we have 2 minutes left in this program.
Oh, good.
I'm switching.
Well, we can introduce ourselves. Well, I'm Patrick Garnett. I live in Chicago. I've been with SMART 4.5 years. I spent 9 years in 12 steps, so I have that background. I'm in recovery from crystal meth. It just wasn't sticking for me until I found SMART and the stars aligned, and that was 4.5 years ago, and it's been 4.5 years since I last used crystal. And so I've been a facilitator for 4 years, and I'm the regional coordinator for Illinois and the chair of the regional coordinators, and I sit on about 4 committees. So these questions, how about we introduce ourselves first, and then we'll come back and we'll answer those.
Time for the questions.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Elaine Apple, and I've been with Smart Recovery since basically the beginning. I ended my addiction, or was in the process of ending it, as Smart Recovery was forming. So it was an interesting thing to get out of a treatment facility and find there was no more predecessor program, and now we were Smart Recovery. And Joe Gerstein, I lived up in the Boston area. We talked yesterday about, Tom mentioned about the lifeboat being rowed out. Well, Joe also rowed the boat locally, and he picked me up as a facilitator in one of the meetings in Concord, Massachusetts. And I was volunteering at a local level until I left the New England area in 2008. In 2004, so this will be my 10th anniversary for being on the board, or it's a little bit past. I've been on the board since 2004. I've moved to South Carolina and find that the climate down there is very different for addiction, recovery. And I'm very interested, anybody in the South that could help. And the resources from that app and things, I'm very interested in the lady from Tennessee that just mentioned things. But I just love Smart Recovery, and I just can't seem to move on from it. It's probably something, they're stuck with me probably for my life anyway.
I'm Brett Sarla. I've been involved in SMART for about 12 years. I'm a peer and a professional. I'm a clinical social worker. I'm also dual diagnosis. I have bipolar disorder. I recently moved to London, but I've been in New York City for most of my time, pretty much all my time that I was involved with SMART. Though I'm trying to get things sort of rolling again in the UK, but that's just very recently started. I've been on a number of different committees and things throughout my time in SMART, from the training, I was involved in that early on, to materials review, but right now it's the conference committee has been the big thing the last few years.
Brett's also vice president.
I'm also vice president, yes.
And I'm Roxanne Allen. I've been with Smart Recovery since 2009. My involvement is with, you might say, social outreach through the blog and Facebook. I also facilitate recovery meetings online, family and friends meetings online. I've been involved with the Family and Friends program since the beginning, and also I'm, I think, the newest member on the board. And so I am helping out as I can. I don't have all the skills for it, but I'm helping out as I can with the fundraising. Oh, you don't need this.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Claire Sines. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. By profession, I'm a lawyer, and I'm also, I don't like to use the word in recovery personally. I quit my addiction in 1998. Yes. Yeah, right. I just personally do not like to identify myself with a problem I left behind in the Clinton administration. That's how I feel about it. But I spent a number of years in 12-step, and actually, you know, I found some of the things they did there helpful, particularly social support. So I'm a big believer in that that aspect of it. But the philosophy did not resonate with me, and I ended up leaving after 9 years. Patrick and I have 9 years in that approach, and I found Smart Recovery online, and immediately thought to myself, oh my gosh, I wish I'd known about this, because no one ever told me. And so my personal passion is that people need to know about not just Smart Recovery, really, which is, of course, my own thing that resonated with me, but all sorts of different, I mean, there's so many ways that people find their way out of addiction, and I think everyone should know about them. And so that's my personal passion. Again, I'm a lawyer, and so I do a lot of, you know, backroom stuff. You know, you guys probably noticed I don't comment a lot on the, you know, I'm your backroom person. You know, looking at the contractual stuff, looking at the intellectual property and how that works internationally. I'm very excited about what's going to be going on structurally with the organization, and so that's me, and I'm grateful to be here.
Claire is also the secretary, and Joe, I suspect you and I have had enough airtime. In the interest of taking a...
We're going to have Brian come up and just introduce Tony.
Oh, yeah.
And then we'll take a break.
I thought in Tony's absence, I'll just answer the question, I suppose, who is Tony Wales? He's the Australian representative on the US board, but his background is accountancy, but also he's a philanthropist and also an extremely, I suppose, respected businessman, particularly around computer shares, where that's where he made most of his money. He came into Smart Recovery purely and simply because Joseph Freeman, who actually was with Smart Recovery right from the beginning, actually, we were going to lose Smart Recovery in Australia. And so they needed to find someone that actually would fund Smart Recovery in Australia. And Tony never even knew about the organisation, but Josette and others put the case to him, and he's been funding Smart Recovery ever since.
Thank you. We'll be around at the break. Feel free to chat with us. Be back in 15 minutes.